Cycling, whether it be indoor or outdoor, can be an excellent cross-training activity for rowing. There's a very large cardiovascular component to cycling, similar to rowing. It also uses very similar musculature. The quadriceps, the gluteal muscles are the primary driving muscles in the cycling activity. Cycling is also easy on the joints, or easier on the joints than running. As well, cycling, with its long rides and great scenery, can be enjoyable and very social. It's a great team building activity. Some of the limiters in cycling are the necessity for equipment. Indoor cycles or outdoor cycles can be quite expensive. Additionally, helmets, shoes, gloves, clothing, they can also add up. It might be financially difficult for people to undertake cycling as a cross-training activity. There's also no upper body component involved in the sport of cycling. Rowing has equal lower body and upper body components. So people who are cross-training on the bike will need to do additional work in the weight room to make sure that their upper body strength is keeping up with the strength they're developing on the bike. Finally, cycling can be difficult on the low back. It has the potential to shorten the hamstring and hip flexor, which can pull on the back muscles, causing discomfort. If you're a rower that has a pre-existing back problem, you might want to try cycling, especially in a very relaxed, comfortable position on the bike. If it works for you, continue with it. If, however, you find that you get sore in your back when you're cycling, I would recommend you move to another cross-training activity.
My name is Dean Peterson. I am the Marian University cycling coach and owner of DAP Gear Coaching Services. I've been competing and coaching for 27 years in cycling and endurance athletics. I have been very fortunate to coach many athletes to national championships in track cycling, road cycling, and other disciplines within the cycling world. The most important thing in all of this is that it's not that complicated and there's lots of help out there. First thing is, when you go to a bike shop, you need to realize that if you're going to buy a bike, part of buying that bike is a fit, because they want to sell you the right size bike. So they will fit you, and they will make sure that most of these places are pretty good before you walk out the door. Two, there's so much information. You can Google bike fit and you can find the kinds of things that you need to know to expand on what you already know, to see if you can make the bike work better for you. Typically, that information is right out there for you, and local bike shops with bike clubs also help. You just need to ask, and most people will be really quite willing to share with you some tips on getting your bike to work for you.
When we're working with bike fit, the most important thing for a rider is to be comfortable on the bike. And there are different degrees of comfort, and people will be searching for that comfort oftentimes depending on the kind of riding you're doing, and there's so many factors involved. But there are some key things that you can do right off the bat to make this work for you that are not very difficult.
When you're starting to look at getting on the bike, you've got to consider three basic areas, the contact points that we typically are messing with to make the bike work well for you and your body. The contact points are the saddle, the handlebars where the hands go, and the pedals where your feet are either locked in or semi-locked in or just sitting on a platform. Those three areas, if worked with correctly, without a lot of extra things going on, can actually provide you with much more comfort and a good fit to get you started on the bike. The most important thing on saddle height is to make sure that, one, you're not way too low, meaning there's going to be a lot of bend in your knee, and you're not so high that you are overextending your knee, looking something like this. And you're doing this by basically your gauge is going down to the bottom of your pedal stroke, straight down. I'm sitting in the saddle, come out to the bars, and you can see that I have some bend in my leg. It's not a lot of bend, and it's not fully straightened out. When I settle into the saddle where I would normally sit, you can see that I have a bend in my leg. That's the first rule of thumb that you need to follow. The most important thing to consider in this particular area with the saddle is to find something that works, but you have to keep in mind that it will not feel good right off the bat usually. So you got to give it time for your body to acclimate. With that in mind, once you do begin to find that it's working, but you're finding that there's pressure on your body here, the first idea that people have is to send the snout of the saddle down. And you want to be careful with that. Usually what that means, if there's pressure there, is that you're probably too stretched out here, you're too low in the handlebars. So there are things we can do to always balance out with the other contact point right here. And that's key. It doesn't have to be super specific. You just need to know that if you raise this up, there's going to be less pressure here. And if you're getting too far down in the snout, then you're going to have a lot of extra body pressure here on your arms and shoulders, and that equates to a lot of discomfort in the ride as well. So trying to keep this level and condense the whole system, bringing this up, bringing it back, sliding it back and forth in this system right here on the seat post, those are all small things you can do that make big differences on a ride. So after you've got the saddle height correct, and you've got it at least in an appropriate range, then your number 2 area is your reach. And the most common place that we're riding on a road style bike like this one is out on the hoods or up here on top of the bars. And then there's this position down here. And since this one out on the hoods is really the most severe reach, it could be maybe this, but you need to be sure that you are comfortable in this position and not overstretched out. Like if I were out here, that'd be too much, and you can see that my back I'm stretching to get out there to a point where this is going to be very uncomfortable as you get further down the road. So the idea is there are 2 places that you can begin to try to work on your reach. And the area that typically, if you're buying a new bike, this will all be done for you as you buy a bike, and they'll work with you on this. But they'll work on the stem length, which is this, and it's a very simple piece to remove for a bike shop, and put a shorter one to bring the bars back, or put a longer one to bring the bars forward. There are many other things that you can do, but the key is, whether you're pulling a bike out of the garage or you're getting a new bike, is to feel comfortable out here and to not feel that this is too much of a stretch when you're down in what we call the drops. One of the very important contact points on the bike is the pedal system. There are lots of pedal systems out there. If you're familiar with skiing, skiing has binding kinds of systems, and pedals on a bike are the same way. But there are pedals that have a simple toe strap, and you can use a normal running shoe or a tennis shoe of any kind. Slip your toe in, tighten it up, and off you go. You can actually cross-train effectively without any kind of toe strap and just a flat pedal. This particular pedal is a lock-in system, and I have a cleat on the bottom of my shoe here that clips right into this pedal and locks me in so that I can work on a full pedal stroke, and which is much more effective and efficient in terms of getting everything you can get out of your body and sending that energy and transfer it to the road. It is so critical that you look at all 3 of the points that I've discussed on the bike, and keep in mind that you can make micro adjustments as you get on the bike to make it work for you, because that's going to be needed as your body gets used to being on this thing we call a bicycle. With your bike, there's some equipment that you're going to need, and some things that definitely are a must, and some things that become optional as you expand into this. That you will realize the further you get into biking, the more you're probably going to spend. So the first and foremost is the helmet. Helmets are actually kind of cool these days to wear, and it was at one time not cool to wear a helmet, and therefore people weren't wearing them. They've gotten so light and so good and so cool looking that it's just not okay for the real reasons of protecting your head to not wear a helmet. So a couple of things on helmet. This is a helmet that has a locking system on the back. Most of them come with this now when you go to buy one. You can buy helmets anywhere in the range of $25 to over $200. But the big thing is you get one that fits your head, and a $25 helmet's fine. Don't buy a used one, because if it's been crashed and if it has a crack in it, it will not protect your head the way it needs to. Here's what it should look like on the head. You need to get it on the head, and there's usually some sort of system to make sure it's staying on your head well, and without strapping the straps, it should stay on your head pretty well. You'll also notice that it's on my forehead. It's not sitting back like a cap. It's on my forehead. This is very, very important. To know that it's where it needs to be, you should be able to get to a flat surface, put it down, and nothing on your face should be touching the ground. The helmet should be hitting first. Then you want to make sure you get the straps. The straps are fully adjustable to come around the ears and clip under, and leave yourself some room here so it works just like that for you. And it's tight, it's comfortable, and there's plenty of room there if you need to wear a hat or something else under it when it's colder out. The next things that you're going to see, I'm wearing cycling shorts and a cycling jersey. I have a cycling jersey here to show you, and one of the nice things about a cycling jersey is that it's light, it's a breathable fabric, and you have pockets. Pockets to put other things in, I'll show you in a moment, but it gives you a place for a water bottle and lots of other things like a cell phone that you may need on the ride, and those kinds of things, a wallet, whatever it may be. Mostly it's breathable. They're usually bright colored and visible, and that's important on the road. And they're made to be a little bit more aerodynamic and a little more snugly fitting. The other part of this, of the cycling kit, is a cycling short. Neither of these items to get started on a bike are required, for sure. But as you get into it, you'll notice that these are some things you can do that make things more efficient, more comfortable, and kind of bring you into the fold a little bit more of the whole biking piece. These shorts, cycling shorts, have a pad in them called a chamois, and you can see that this is pretty padded. It's sewn in to the crotch of the shorts, and it definitely provides comfort when you're in the saddle, and it adds to that whole good bike fit that we've talked about that makes this a much more comfortable situation when you're on the bike. Definitely an important piece here to have the shorts even before having a jersey. Gloves are another important piece in good bike comfort. The nice thing about gloves is that they do fit snugly. They have a pad in the hand, and there's typically some gripping mechanism within the glove structure within the palm. This is, again, this is a contact point. So when you're out here on the hood or on the bars, this is providing comfort and padding for you that will, over time, provide a much more comfortable and nicer ride for you down the road. There are all kinds of shoes that you can buy, and it depends on the system that you're using with pedals. The cycling shoe is designed to have a harder sole so that there isn't as much bending in the shoe. It is okay to wear a normal tennis shoe, running shoe, whatever it may be. But you will find over time that will not be as efficient, and it could lead to injury. Shoes run from, just like running shoes or any other shoes you buy, a low level to a high level. The highest level shoes will have a carbon sole. The lowest level shoes will have a hard plastic sole. All of them come equipped with a mechanism to attach a cleat with whatever pedal system that you would like to use. It's very important when you go out for a ride to have in your pocket or a saddlebag that fits back behind your saddle an extra tube and an inflation device. These things can be purchased at your local bike shop. They're great to have, and there is no question that at some point you will have a flat on your bicycle. There are great how-tos in changing a flat. You can also learn to do this at the local bike shop or from local bike riders in clubs that you can research on the internet. But having an inflation device, a small mini pump, or something like a CO2 device like this is a great thing to always have with you so that you can take care of your own flat and you're not always using someone else's if you're riding along with other people. It's also recommended that you carry around something like a multi-tool. Just something that gives you some of the main wrenches or the Allen keys that you need to do what you need to do on your bike. If your bike's an older bike and doesn't have this, there isn't a multi-tool that will really work for what your bike is, then this probably isn't something you need to consider. But for newer bikes that use Allen bolts for the seat post and different places along the bike, this is a nice tool to have handy with you in a pouch again back behind, or just stuffed right back in your pocket. These are tire levers, and they help you get the tire off of the rim when you go to put a new tube in. These are definitely handy to have as well. If you're going to carry a tube and you're going to carry an inflation device, then you should go ahead and carry tire levers with you as well. All of these things, again, can be purchased at a local bike shop, online, or you might be able to borrow them and find people that might have them in the area that have been riding a long time and could share these kinds of things with you. One of the benefits that we have in cycling available to all of us is using an indoor trainer. This particular indoor trainer was designed to be locked into the rear axle of my bicycle, and then of any bicycle really, and then the resistance is created by the tire against a roller in the back. There are all different kinds of trainers like this that you can have or that you can use in the winter or when it's not nice out, and it makes riding available to you at all times. Another option you have is rollers. This is a great indoor device that not only works on giving you a good workout, but it also works on the balancing aspect of it, so that gives you real road feeling. These are also something else you can use in bad weather or as an early morning cross workout before you get going into the rest of your day, and another great biking tool to have to keep you riding at all times. Another popular cross-training method is spinning. Although it doesn't replace cycling, it is a great means to ride a bicycle for cross-training. There are spin classes available typically in colleges, typically in fitness clubs, and all you need to do is find the schedule, go. You can wear your regular shoes, or typically you can wear your cycling shoes if you have them, and you're ready to go. And it's a super 45-minute to 1 hour workout that can provide great cross training. For road riding skills and just riding on your own and making sure you're riding safely, there are many things to consider. One, ride as close to the right-hand edge of the roadway as practical, but be careful of edges and things that could make it unsafe for you. You do have room outside the white line, but stay close to the line so that traffic can move around you. Ride with other vehicular traffic and not against it. Be sure that you are riding basically with the flow of traffic on the right-hand side of the road. You obey traffic signs, signals, lights, pavement marking, etc., just like cars do. So be watching that as you are riding, please. For safety's sake, ride in single file on city streets or in heavy traffic. Take special precautions while riding in the rain. It takes longer to stop, and many road surfaces are apt to be more slippery when wet. When a pack of cyclists moves down the road, the rider in front breaks the wind for those following, and so must work harder. Those behind the leaders can take advantage of the reduced wind resistance at rest. When you're riding in a pace line, it's really important to think about that you're getting a draft behind, and you need to keep yourself in a safe position, not too close to the rider in front of you, not overlapping your front wheel with their rear wheel, and being very careful to not make any sudden movements that would throw off the people behind you or put you into the rear wheel of the person in front of you. This is very, very important while riding in a pace line. The most important thing to consider while you are riding in a group or in a pace line of any kind is to communicate well with the people that are riding, and realize that talking is not always going to do it. So hand signals pointing out debris on the road, hand signals that are common language of turning left and right and stopping with a voice are the best way for the group to know that they are all going to have to stop, turn, or avoid debris on the road. It's also important while riding in a group to remain steady. If the speed is fluctuating, it will make it more difficult for those in the back to feel the draft and stay with the group, and the accelerations that it takes to stay with the group because of the speed fluctuations will make the group come apart much more quickly than if you stay steady and rotate in an even manner. It's important while riding to be looking up the road and looking at where you're going while maintaining a good position on the bike with bent elbows that absorb the shock of the road better than if you are tight in the upper body. It's also very important to consider what is going on to your left and right, and be aware and have a sense of who is there based on the type of ride that's going on. If there is rotating going on, you must look to make sure that before you pull off of the front to go to the back of the line, that there's no one in your line of traffic to the left or to the right. If you're riding frequently with a group, it is important to understand that there are different languages with different groups in terms of how they communicate. Try to understand the hand signals and the verbal commands that the group uses quickly, and try to ask what they are before you get too far into a ride that help you then communicate effectively and also know what's happening so that you can be prepared and not have an accident that could turn into the end of the ride for that day. Oftentimes during group riding, small gestures with the elbow or a tap on the hip will say that the front rider is ready to pull back and the group should come around on that side of the rider. These are more advanced skills that require knowing the riders you're riding with very well, but these are the kinds of things that begin to develop as you ride more with groups.
Indoor cycles come in lots of shapes and sizes, but for a good indoor bicycle, you're going to want a couple key adjustments. The first, primary, and one of the most important adjustments is being able to properly set the seat up and down. This is going to make a big difference on whether or not you can achieve a comfortable, powerful position for both your musculature and your joints. A bad position on the bicycle can limit your training and it can lead to injury. A second very important adjustment on the bike is the fore and aft of the seat. Because people come in different shapes and sizes, height is only one limiter. the length on the femur will determine whether or not an individual will need to slide their seat forward or back. This can improve the quality of your training, but also it's very important regarding injury prevention. A properly positioned seat is going to make sure that you have effective training that will keep you healthy in the long run. The final adjustment on an indoor bicycle, this is less important. The position of the upper body. In outdoor cycling, body position on the bike is important because of aerodynamics. But when you're indoors, I think that comfort is the most important thing. The higher the position of the handlebars relative to the seat, the more open your body and more comfortable you'll be on the bike. Because you're not dealing with aerodynamics, you don't have to worry about being in a down, forward, or low racing position. However, if you are using your indoor cycling to transition to your outdoor cycling, you'll want to try and mirror the position of your road bike or the bike that you'll use outdoors very similarly on your indoor bike, so that when you go change bikes, you're comfortable and effective on both setups. For effective pedaling, you're going to need a pedal that either has toe clips if you're going to be using your athletic shoes, or clipless pedal adjustments. It is impossible to properly pedal a bicycle without having your foot secured to the pedal. An unsecured foot can only deliver force in a downward direction. A proper pedal stroke will be circular in nature and will require an upstroke as well as a downstroke. Let's take a look at an athlete getting set up on the bike. What we want to do first is set the height of the seat before we worry about the fore and aft. The way we're going to do that is we're going to have Dana climb on the bike, and she's going to put her heel on top of the pedal above the spindle. When we get the height right, her leg will be perfectly straight when the heel is on the pedal. So let's take a look. She'll go to the bottom of the pedal stroke, and as you can see, I'm going to slide this heel forward just a titch. Good, so it's directly over the pedal spindle. The next thing we'll do is we'll take a look at the bend in the knee. You can see there's a small degree of bend. That tells me that her seat needs to go up. So we'll have her hop off and we'll adjust that seat. Okay, we knew you had long legs. I like the look of this. What I'm going to ask her to do is put both heels on the pedals and slowly pedal the bike. What I'm looking for now is to see that she's extending her leg with the heel on it, but I'm also looking at her hips. If the seat is too high, she's going to be reaching her hips to the side in order to stay in contact with the pedal. A seat that's too high is just as bad as a seat that's too low. Right now I see that Dana's hips are staying level. I see that her legs are straight at the bottom of the pedal stroke, so I think we're in a good place with the initial height setup. Now that we've got Dana's height set properly, with her heel over the pedal spindle and a straight leg that doesn't require her to lean to either side of the seat, we're going to start to adjust her fore and aft measurement. We will now adjust her foot into the pedal in the baskets. So we'll move her foot all the way, and ideally, when properly positioned, the ball of the foot is going to be directly over the pedal spindle. That alignment is very important. The next thing we're going to do is ask Dana to move her pedals to 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock with this pedal in front. A little bit higher. So you're at, there you go, parallel to the ground. What we're going to look for here now is the alignment of the knee over the alignment of the spindle. A knee that is too far forward will put a big force on the knee joint and has possible shearing force on the tendon. We use a complicated piece of equipment known as dental floss. You can just run it out. I made sure this was minty dental floss. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold that dental floss like a plumb bob right in front of the knee, and I'm going to take a look at where it falls. As I take a look at it, it looks to me like Dana's knee is about 1.5 inches behind the pedal spindle. So we're going to move her seat forward so that we get it a little bit closer so she can maximize the amount of power she's producing with her quadriceps and glutes. there. Yeah, let's go to 4. Tighten that off. Okay. We've adjusted Dana's fore and aft. She's now working to slip into the pedals. Getting these perfect. Now we hold it on the tendon. And we see that that falls just level with or behind the pedal spindle. She's very well positioned now with her fore and aft position. We'll want to do a final check, however, because when you adjust the fore and aft position, you often can influence the height of the seat relative to the pedal. So we're going to take one more lick with her feet out and see what it looks like with her heels back on the pedal. There you go. Good. We go to the bottom of the pedal stroke, and again, because we've shifted her seat forward, we've now shortened the distance between her seat and the pedal. I think we could look at going up one more click. This looks pretty good to me. I'm going to ask you to pedal backwards slowly to see how it works. And again, I'm watching for her legs to straighten out, and I'm looking to see that she's not reaching with her hips to rock on the seat in order to stay connected to the pedals. That looks very good to me. Let's slip our toes into the stretcher. We'll see when the toe clip comes in and she moves to the toe, we've got a nice 3 to 5 degree bend in the knee. That's going to prevent the knee from straightening or locking out while she's doing a hard workout. Keeps nice even pressure on the knee, and because we have her set up properly behind the pedal spindle, we won't overload the knee when the foot comes up to the 3 o'clock position on the pedal. She's well positioned. Go ahead and start spinning there. Looks great. Quiet, comfortable, and powerful. Dana right now has a good lower body position on the bike. Let's take a look at the upper body position. Road bikes and spin bikes have multiple hand positions. Dana's in one of the favorite hand positions, often referred to as hand position 1. On a road bike, we may see her shift her hands out here. And a good general position on the bike would be slightly bent elbows down low. So go ahead and bend that. Good. Quiet upper body while riding, relaxed shoulders, comfortable arms, and good connection to the pedals is key. Dana looks like she's ready to go for a ride. Colin's been riding outdoors as well as indoor, and I want to talk about an important piece of equipment if you're going to seriously undertake cycling as a cross-training activity. Colin is in clipless pedals. Would you mind unclipping for me? Go ahead and stop. The clipless pedal doesn't require the use of a basket. The reason cycling shoes are important for people who are going to take their cycling seriously is that the last of the shoe or the bottom of the shoe is much stiffer than that of a tennis shoe or an average workout shoe. So when the athlete applies the force of their legs to it, the shoe doesn't flex and they're not losing power because the shoe is very soft or pliable. Remember, running shoes are designed to cushion the impact of running. When you apply your force to a bike, you don't encounter the same impact. So you want a stiff shoe so your power can translate directly into the pedals. We'll see Colin clip in and lock into the pedal position. With a clipless pedal or toe clips, he'll not only be able to produce power on the downstroke, he'll come through the bottom of the downstroke and he'll use his hip flexors and hamstrings to generate power on the upstroke as well. Go ahead all the way through the bottom, back up again. That's the advantage to a clipless pedal or a toe clip pedal. A good way to practice for new cyclists who have either clipless pedals or toe clips on is to take one of their feet out. Go ahead and pull that right foot. And pedal simply with one foot. You'll be amazed at the amount of musculature required during the upstroke. You're likely to feel it in the hip and hip flexor as you work not only the power of the quadricep in the downstroke, but the hip flexor and hamstring in the upstroke. Let's talk again about the upper body position. Colin's riding outdoors. So if Colin were a rower that had a back problem, what I'd recommend is that we set the handle up extremely high. Colin can now grip this with a very open hip and feel very comfortable on the bike. However, Colin's riding outdoors, and aerodynamics are going to matter when he gets outside. What we're looking to do, a moderately aggressive position would find the handlebar height equivalent to the seat height. Colin's outdoor riding position would be out on the hoods, elbows slightly bent. You can see how this puts more demand on the back. You can see how there's more of an angle here. He's more closed down in his hip flexor, and if he bends his elbows slightly and ducks down a little more, he's going to be in a very aerodynamic racing stance. This is what you'd want to do to try and go fast outdoors. Indoors, comfort's what matters. Once the athlete's properly positioned on the bike, there's a few simple things you'll want to pay attention to. Having a mirror in front of you if you're new to cycling on a stationary bike is a very good thing. What's important to realize is that you're going to want good alignment between the ball of the foot, where you're connected to the bike, the knee joint, and the hip, where a lot of the power is being produced. Sometimes you'll see cyclists get in and they'll have a knee that will be outside of the ball of the foot. Liz is demonstrating that technique right now. This kind of misalignment is not only bad use of your muscles, but it can also lead to knee problems and problems with the tendons out there. Proper alignment is essential. Ankle joint, knee joint, hip joint, all in a row, working in concert to produce. You might also find that there's a person who will knee in. These are two things you want to look for. One of the greatest ways to find your proper alignment would be to take one foot out. Because the upstroke is equally important when you're cycling with only one foot, it tends to bring the foot into alignment. You can see Liz's technique here is excellent. Now all we need her to do is duplicate that with the other foot. Now that Liz's foot's back in, she can do an occasional check in the mirror, especially when she's going hard or feeling fatigued, to make sure that she's got proper alignment with the lower body on the bike. Once the athlete's correctly positioned and they have good lower body position on the bike, there are some more things you're going to want to watch for with the upper body. You want to avoid having locked out elbows and tight shoulders. A rigid athlete will get sore on the bike, and especially if you're going to take it outdoors, you'll want to have the elbows soft and relaxed and your shoulders down and relaxed. Otherwise, you'll end up pinched up and sore in the upper body. Varying hand positions will require different positions on the bicycle. See, as Brad shifts his hands forward, perfect. He brings his body forward, and then you're going to want to pay attention to keeping the head up. It's very easy as you get fatigued to let your head fall, but if you're going to move your cycling to outdoors, you always want to have your eyes forward to make sure you know what kind of terrain you're approaching or if there are any obstacles you need to remove. People who have learned to cycle without toe clips or without clipless pedals also have learned to produce power by only pushing down. What you will see a lot with those people is when they start going hard or we increase the resistance of the bike, they will often begin to rock their weight over the pedals. The reason they're doing this is because they're only using the downstroke, only using the body weight pushing down on the pedals to produce power. Good cycling technique will see an athlete very quiet with their upper body on the bike, very relaxed, very quiet with all the action happening below the belly button. If an athlete finds himself rocking to and fro on the bike because they want to put more weight on the pedals during the downstroke, this won't be too much of a problem if they're on a stable, stationary indoor bicycle. But if you move it outdoors and you put them on a bike with skinny tires and they're rocking back and forth with their body weight, they significantly increase the opportunity for themselves to have a crash. One of the limits of training on a bicycle indoors is that you do not have terrain changes. So the responsibility of the instructor or the athlete is to simulate terrain changes. That's why most bikes have resistance adjusters on them. Going uphill, if you're going to simulate going uphill, you're going to increase the resistance. If you simulate being on a flat or a downhill, you'll decrease resistance. But one of the things I do want to cover is when the athlete starts to move out of the saddle. You'll want to increase the resistance significantly so that it's hard to produce pedal stroke. And then we're going to watch Colin come up here out of the saddle into a good climbing position. One of the things that people typically do is that they shift their body weight over the handlebars and start to lean heavily on the handlebars. I want to encourage you not to do that. When you come out of the saddle, you want to have the majority of your weight back, and you want to make sure that your hips stay directly over your pedals. In an outdoor bicycle, when you go up a hill, you naturally shift forward so that the body stays perpendicular to gravity. So if you can imagine, the bike goes up the hill, the athlete stays perpendicular to gravity, and that brings them forward on the bike. But on an indoor bike, when you come up out of the saddle, realize the bike is not changing position. So you want to keep your body weight back over the pedals because that taxes the legs a lot more. You also don't want to get in the habit of putting a lot of body weight forward onto your handlebars because that can make the bike difficult to control.
Testing outdoors, an athlete will need at minimum a reliable bike, a bike computer, and a flat, stop-free course to test on. It is acceptable to turn around on a course. If you have a reasonable stretch of road that's 2 miles long, you can go back and forth on it. Before an athlete tests on a bike, they should have a minimum of 12 to 15 high-quality rides under their belt. 2 weeks minimum on the bike. Athletes should warm up for 30 minutes. They should work up a good sweat and not be afraid to hit some harder intensities during the warm-up. When you're ready to begin the test, start riding on a flat road in the racing position at 12 to 13 miles an hour for 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes, increase your speed by 10 watts or 1 to 1.5 miles an hour. Continue doing this until you can no longer accelerate. The top speed achieved by the athlete is that athlete's VO2 max, or velocity at VO2 max. Following this test, rest 48 hours and then come back and test T-lim at VO2 max. Before an athlete can test on an indoor stationary bike, they should have a minimum of 12 to 15 quality training sessions on this bike. This ensures that they're functional and comfortable on the bike. Before the test, the athlete should warm up for 30 minutes. Don't be afraid to do some hard intensities during this warm-up. When you're ready to begin the test, start riding in a comfortable position at approximately 12 to 13 miles an hour, or something that would be considered moderately easy. Every 2 minutes, increase your power output by 10 watts. Continue increasing in these 10-watt intervals every 2 minutes until you can no longer accelerate. The highest watts output achieved is that athlete's power output at VO2 max. Then rest 48 hours before coming back for the T-lim VO2 max test. The athlete must be well rested for this portion of the test. There should be no hard training between the VO2 max and the T-lim VO2 max test. Only one easy steady state ride. Again, warm up for 30 minutes. Don't be afraid to put some significant intensity into the warm-up. You want to be well prepared to attack this from the beginning. Use the same course. Using a rolling start, begin riding at your velocity at VO2 max as determined by the VO2 max protocol. Ride as long as you can at VO2 max or PVO2 max. On average, cyclists will have a T-lim at VO2 max of approximately 4 minutes. This is an extremely intensive and painful test. There should be no hard training between the VO2 max test and the T-lim VO2 max test. Only easy steady state. Again, the athlete should warm up for 30 minutes. Do not be afraid to have some intensity in the warm-up. You'll want to be good and ready to go. Once the athlete's set, they'll get on the bike and start riding at their power output at VO2 max as determined by the PVO2 max test. The athlete will ride as long as they can at PVO2 max. On average, cyclists will have a T-lim at VO2 max of approximately 4 minutes. The feeling will be very similar to that of a 2,000-meter rowing race. It is important to note that these are very intense training sessions, and that a little bit goes a long way. Scientists have proven that there is no increased benefit in doing more training sessions per week at 100% V or P VO2 max. Doing more than one such workout a week significantly increases one's chances of overtraining or incurring an injury, without providing any additional fitness benefits. 30-30 sessions. Warm up for 30 minutes as though you were about to test. Alternate 30 seconds at 100% PVO2 max or VVO2 max with 50% of this output. Repeat this for a total work time of 2 to 2.5 times one's T-lim VO2 max. So for instance, if your T-lim at VO2 max was 4 minutes, the total work time of your 30 on, 30 off session should be 8 to 10 minutes. Accordingly, the total time of the interval session, work and rest included, will be 16 to 20 minutes. It's a very short, very intensive session, after which the athlete should cool down for a minimum of 15 to 30 minutes and then do some good stretching. Again, warm up for 30 minutes as though you were about to race. Then ride 2 kilometers or 1 mile at 100% of VVO2 max or PVO2 max. Recover at 50% of this output for the same amount of time as the interval, essentially a 1-to-1 work-to-rest ratio. Repeat this for a total work time of 2 times T-lim VO2 max. Again, make sure you cool down for 15 to 30 minutes following such intensive exercise. A 10-mile time trial is the best way to determine one's anaerobic threshold on the bicycle. Following the determination of this pace or power output, individuals should do a workout of 5 by 5 minutes at this pace, with 3 to 5 minute recoveries between each at 50% of the pace. As always, following intensive workouts, a 15 to 30 minute cool down is recommended. A 1-hour time trial is the best way to determine one's maximal aerobic output. It is impossible for an individual to sustain this pace using anaerobic energy sources. Following the determination of this pace, athletes can then ride 2 to 3 times 20 minutes at this 1-hour time trial pace, with 4 to 5 minutes of recovery at 50% of this pace between each session.